Welcome once again to the stage, and welcome to the final edition of a discussion we've had for 2 weeks. Incredibly interesting. Fish farming, particularly fish farming and processing for family use. It's so needed at this time. In the previous episodes, we discussed this concept. We discussed what fish farming and processing was. We discussed why, what is the demand out there, and showed it was huge. This wonderful information was provided by our entrepreneurs, 2 experts, well proven in this area with a great deal of experience, who have been sharing candidly with us. Again, Eric Ochibo and Mary Oteiku.
Yes.
Thank you for what you've shared, and thank you for what you are still going to share. Mm-hmm. And so on this final episode, they will complete what they started last week, where they began to tell us the how. Yes, we've made a case for the fact that every family could actually, even with little space, farm. And so they started the discussion on the how. And so we go back to you, Eric. You discuss what kind of container, what kind of space, what kind of fingerlings. Please continue the discussion on the how.
Thank you very much, man. So at the point where you have your containers already, or you have your pond already, because we refer to them as pond. Once you put your fish inside, it becomes a pond.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So at the time you've gotten your fingerlings from very credible source, they are ready to grow. What next is to feed them. And I must be honest with you, it is the most challenging part of fish farming. Feeding. Because they don't, unlike other animals like your goats or your cows, they can just walk around and take care of themselves. The fish can't go anywhere outside
that pond.
That so you
pond
must,
is created.
Yeah, so you must bring food to them in the pond to eat. So there are feeds in the market, special feeds in the market. Some foreign, some local, but they are all good. They are all good. I will recommend that in the early stage, the first 2 months of growing this fish, because at that point, just like every child, for human beings, they will tell you exclusive breastfeeding so that this child can grow, can get everything he needs to face life. Also the fish. For those early stages, I buy foreign feeds. This is because it is very, very nutritious. That doesn't mean that the local feed itself can't do it. They can do very well. So you must not break the banks to get foreign feeds. But after 2 months, 3 months, they've grown beyond that stage where you fear stunted growth. They've passed beyond the stage where you fear stunted growth.
So implied in that is that if you're not careful and don't feed them
well,
yeah, they become stunted.
Yes.
That's an important point.
Yes. So the very first 2 months are very important. Make sure you give them enough to eat. After that stage, you can begin to give them bread.
What is enough to eat? How do we know what enough is?
You see, by the time you put your feed inside, you see them running after it. You see them running to eat. After a while, they will just begin to go under the water to relax. That child is full.
So we should just keep feeding as long as they keep running around.
Yes, keep observing. If you just put small, you see, especially in the mornings when you come, because they have not eaten overnight, you see them running after it. You put more, you see them eating and eating. After a while, you discover that they're no longer rushing after it. So you now stop. Yeah, okay, this guy is you're full.
For me, the high point of my life at this point is being a grandmother. And so I've watched many of my grandchildren growing in, that is my life now.
Yeah.
And the analogy is beautiful. When the baby is hungry, woo, crying and looking for the food and eating it. Once they're full, they throw away the bottle and go away, you know,
Yeah.
or remove their mouth from the breast, and they leave you in no doubt that we've had enough.
Yes.
You're full. Yeah.
So and so they also timing is key in feeding this fish. If you want to feed them like 7 o'clock in the morning, keep to that time. Feed them because they will come around.
They come around.
Once it gets to that time, the fishes will start coming. They are looking. Yes, they are looking for food. So you maintain the timing at that early stage, and also the frequency. If you are feeding them three times, keep to. Okay, start the feeding 7 o'clock. I do 2 o'clock, and then in the evening 5 or 6, depending on what the farmer agreed to do. This will help them to grow fast and to grow well. You will not experience.
Something tells me that someday we will do research and find that fish, like children, can also have emotional damage. You see?
Yes.
So because if what you're saying is to have a schedule.
Yes.
Once you adhere to the schedule, they know when to wait and when you will come and feed them. When you become erratic, they get emotionally deprived and they don't thrive.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm right.
Yes.
You know,
you're right.
Very right. Very correct. At that 7 a.m. in the morning, they just like the chickens as well we have around the house. In the morning, when you start throwing around, when you make those noise, they'll come around and come and eat. But if you don't come at a certain time, they will get to understand that, oh, those are just ordinary noise we are hearing, and they will just stay under the water and not come up to it. But once they know around this hour, it's time to eat, everybody's coming up to see, hello, where are we? The food drop, and they run after it. If you don't keep to time, to a certain time, you may drop the food and they won't come up. Because they don't understand that, oh, it's food up there. They will get to understand with your, but once they understand, you see the speed, you see them running and trying to eat. So, but you have to make sure that you change the water as well after 3 days, 4 days, depending on how the size of your pond and the number of fish you have inside. You change the water regularly. Then you have to also be very observant. Look at them, try to see how they are developing. Just keep an eye on them. You may see one not doing very well. You try to isolate those ones to a separate pond to give them proper attention.
So you have to sort of scoop them out.
Yeah, you have to scoop them out and give them to isolate them for proper attention, because they will certainly not grow at the same pace. Some will always be lagging behind, and as they get into the 4th, the 5th, the 6th month, those lagging behind could be eaten by, depending on the type of fingerling you're growing. Yeah, so there's hybrid. I would recommend hybrid. Those ones are less cannibalistic. They're less cannibalistic. If you buy the hybrid fingerling, they hardly attack themselves. But if you leave them hungry for too long, you see those ones that are not doing very well, they become prey to the ones that are being eaten.
That's interesting. That's another interesting. So that they can actually eat themselves.
Yes, they can attack themselves. Right. So if they are left hungry for too long,
or when they are weak, you can see a weak fish to be like this. It will not flow on the water. A weak fish stays like this.
Yes.
So when the bigger ones notice that there's a weak fish or there's an injured fish, they go for it.
They'll just go for it. So
they go for it.
You have to be observant. When you see one not doing very well, you can just take that one out to a separate pond where it will get better attention to catch up with the rest before you can come back.
And since we're saying that even jerry cans can be a pond,
yes,
it's so that families who are now doing this will understand that a separate pond is not about going to dig another.
No, you can get another jerry can.
Just another container.
Yes.
And it be fresh water and transfer them into.
Absolutely, and it may not take so long. A couple of days, because they are now eating alone. They eat more and they can easily catch up with the rest of the folks that are already eating so well.
Wow, that's interesting. So the things to watch out: starting with clean water in a suitable container, the right type of fingerlings bought from as reputable a source as we can, regular feeding, and feeding enough adequately, which means you need to observe your fish, and see when they've had enough and so you're not starving them.
Yeah.
So what else do we need to be on the lookout for?
Then you also have to be very careful about perhaps security and also ensure the environment as well. So you don't have external animals or any other thing that does not belong to that habitat, shouldn't belong there. You know, you don't allow your goats to go and be part to go and drink from there or something. Also watch out to ensure the place is kept alone for the purpose which.
What about man?
Yes, even man as well. Poaching. Man poaching as well.
Okay, another key point we should look at is also providing a net over the tank,
the opening, yes.
Or if it's an earth pond, you provide a net so that maybe things like bird,
prey,
you know,
don't come and prey on them.
Yes, they can pick up.
Birds can fly in and carry
a
fish.
Yes.
Exactly. And then there are some dangerous leaves. Sometimes maybe when it rains and then a leaf will just drop in your pond, you can destroy, can kill off your fish. So, but when there's a net over it, it prevents anything
from coming inside.
Any danger from attacking the fish.
Very, very interesting. Keep thinking. I'm going to come back to you because I'm sure there are other things you need to highlight to us to be careful about. But let me go to the issue of processing. So let's assume from what Eric has discussed with us, we've reached 5-6 months and we harvest. What next? Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Ma. At 5 months or 6 months, when your fish get to the table size, it is ready for processing. It is ready for you to start eating.
It depends on what table size is. My table size is fish.
Okay, it actually depends, but for us, we call it table size for farmers. We refer to
maybe 1 kg sometimes.
Yes.
An average of 1 kg fish.
Yes.
Okay, it's called table size.
Yes, we call it table size. At that point, we start processing. For the family, yes, for consumption, number one, I go to that point because my first the first thing I did going into it was just to feed my family.
Right.
After which the farmer starts thinking, you start thinking of, okay, my family have had enough, we have had enough of this fish. What else? It's for the market. So if before you take this fish for the market, definitely you need to process it. And the processing is drying of this fish. And before you get to drying, you have to, prepare ground for it. This time we use salt to remove the slime. We put some salt in it. We remove the slime. Also, the salt helps for it to preserve the fish.
So this is fish that you've killed?
Yes.
Or is it live fish? So what happens? You harvest, bring them out, and kill them. Is that it?
No. When you harvest fish, you just bring them out of the water. Mm-hmm. Once you bring them out of the water, within an hour, they're no longer active.
Okay.
They are weak. They become weak
and pass out. So you don't have to cut. It's not like you kill a goat. You don't have to cut their neck.
Okay, the word killing is too brutal.
So we use harvest. You just bring them out of the water. Use baskets or something to drain the water and bring them out. And within an hour, they're no longer struggling. They're all calm.
Okay, I think they get the oxygen most from water.
Yes.
So when you bring them out, they're not able to breathe
again.
They
just
struggle and struggle.
So they become less active.
Yes.
And gradually
pass out.
Yes. Just a little quantity of salt so that you don't put salt in it. And this will help to remove the slime. It will also help to preserve the fish and give it flavor. We do this and leave it just for a while, for about 30 to 1 hour. And then we start the process. We wash off the slime on it. The slime is this...
we all know what slime is. Like okra, that is not okra.
Okay. So we take time to wash it out very well. And then we open up this fish. There's this bile. There's no animal that you leave the bile in it while you are processing. You cannot eat it with the bile. So we open
because the bile is
bitter. It's bitter. And then we remove it. We remove all the innards, the intestine, which has some leftover of food in it. You don't process it with it, or else you get some sand content. It's actually the food, but by the time you taste it, it becomes like sand. So we take all this out, and then we put it in our fabricated ovens. All thanks to C4C, who gave us a very large oven. Before, we're using our oven in the house, which is very small. You keep putting just a little quantity in it. But after the program with C4C, we have a very big oven, which takes a lot. It takes about 100 or 150 kg of fish we process at a time.
Tell me next time you're doing it, I'll come and visit you.
We take so much. So we do this. We have a number of farmers, because farmers need us a lot. I have a number of farmers I work with. They need us to help them preserve this fish. And we do it to the level that you can put your fish on the shelf for as long as you want, and it doesn't get it doesn't get bad.
It's that dry, yeah?
Yes, because we try to take out all the moist content in the fish, so that your fish can last as long as you want it to. So I encourage farmers not to be afraid of doing this, because you can preserve it when you dry it. And by the time you've preserved this fish, definitely you have added value to it. It gives your food flavor, and then you can take it to the marketplace. And we know that this is what everyone is looking out to getting. At least you want, we said it before, you want to have a chunk of fish in your food. And by the time you take it to the market is so large. In fact, we have not been able to meet the demand for this.
You know, let me openly testify that I have enjoyed Mary's fish many times.
Thank you.
And what has kept me going back to her over and over, apart from the fact that she gives you a good sized fish for what she charges, Mary's fish has no spot of sand. You know, you take it, you don't even have to wash it if you don't want to, you know. You drop it like that without breaking it open. Because many of us who Africans, when we cook, we break open our fish and wash, because we want to remove the sand that is in the skin and so on. Not the one, you know, they produce in their fish house, you know, processing house. You can drop it like that, and therefore that allows you, when you want to impress your family or your guests, to scoop into your soup and bring it all out like that.
Yes.
Whole, and put it on the plate.
Yes.
So, which is a pure delight. So yes, processing is very good. And when you dry it sufficiently, there's no question of you open it and then you find mold inside.
No.
It is still nice and fresh.
You know, and for family levels, just as we are discussing, if you have processed or harvested, say 50, say 100 fishes as it were, and you've prepared them, you dry it just the way she's saying, and ensure all the fluids out, it's all dry, all the moisture is out, it's all dry, you can be sure of protein on your table for the next 50 days plus without going to the market. And I can assure you, the price of what you have in your store right now compared to what is in the market, they are miles apart. They're miles apart. So you can, as families, we can go through these processes and keep them for our consumption. And as you are doing that, if you decide to expand a little, you can make a lot of money as well from inside, to pay school fees, to pay rent, to do. If you decide to add maybe 2 or 3 more jerry cans to the 2 you're already operating, or to the 3 that you're already operating, you can begin to pay fees from your backyard. You can begin to pay rent from your backyard. That reduces the pressure on your income, on your finances, on your salary, as it were, right now, because everything is very expensive right now.
Very expensive.
The rate of inflation is skyrocketing, and this is a way to, first of all, guarantee yourself a very healthy meal, a very healthy protein for yourself, for aged parents, and for young children, and for youth as well. It's also a very safe way of making money to pay other bills and reduce pressure on the family income. So it's possible. I will also advise that, of course, we can't tell everything on the show. It's important for our viewers who want to really go into fish farming, seek knowledge as well. Seek knowledge, ask people, do some reading, do some research as well. Ask those who are into it. They will guide you if there are anything we've not mentioned or we've missed out. But the bottom line is that it is very possible. You can do it behind your house, in front of your house, somewhere. A space where a container that can contain water can stay is enough to grow fish at home.
I would like to add a little that I've actually trained a couple of people in fish processing, and they are farmers, but they like to do the processing themselves. So from time to time, people come around and just for a little fee, and then they've been trained. And so far, we have a number of them who are doing well, who are processing their fish themselves.
That is great. That is great. I'm also going to offer their services for very minimal fee or even for free for them to guide you and to train you. But I'm sitting here myself, almost ready, wishing to usher you out so I can quickly go and begin to think about fish farming, because all my life I've been an ardent farmer. I've always farmed vegetables and so on. Not because I was hungry necessarily, but because of the sheer pleasure. You see, something that we haven't said overtly, but which I know both of you will agree with me, is there's a special pleasure in eating that one that is yours.
There's that prestige you have when you come around and you have your own, there's that prestige you feel like,
of course,
come on, I'm getting it
prestige
done.
But also the pride
yes,
and pleasure you get when you eat that one that you grew.
Yes.
And so it gives on multiple levels. The gain is huge. The gain on your purse, the food that is on the table for you and your family, and the pleasure of knowing that you were part of creating this thing and making it possible.
And there's a whole lot of job to be created in this environment. And I would like to call on government and perhaps big NGOs to please come up with settings where, because you don't need so much space anyway. If government can, in every local government in Nigeria, set up a space, provide water, provide ponds, and let the young people go there and grow their fish. They will do a lot to meet this gap we have. Like we said in the earlier episode, that the gap between demand and supply in Nigeria is near huge. 5 million metric tons. About 5 million metric tons. So no amount of work we do as individuals will be enough to meet this gap in any time soon. But if government decides that, okay, rather than everybody running to city center to get a job or to get something doing, and it doesn't stop you really from doing other things. Fish farming does not stop you from doing other businesses or other things you want to do. Because you come in the morning, you give them food, just make sure you're around 2 o'clock again to feed them. After 3 days, you change the water. You keep moving and you do other things. So if, for instance, in every local government in Nigeria, government is able to put facilities in place. Okay, let there be water supply in this place. We provide veterinary expertise and ensure, let's assume we have 100 young men and women going into fish production in every local government, which is possible, which is very doable. Just create ponds, perhaps 50,000 ponds, 20,000 ponds. Let 100 to 150 youths go into this thing, a fraction of our budget to be able to do this.
I agree with you entirely. But sometimes, too many times, I keep waiting for government to do these beautiful things we call on them. So for me, at this point in time, and given the emergency we have on hand,
absolutely,
I am asking every family to start.
Yes.
We're throwing that as a challenge to all our viewers. Start. Even if it's 3-4 jerry cans you can put together. Start. And also, please remember that as you're preparing to harvest, you're also growing new seedlings.
Absolutely.
Let it not be a once and for all affair.
Yes.
That it becomes a continuous cycle.
Yeah.
And very important to say is that if you did 50, you probably won't finish 50,
before the next cycle.
So you are able to gain some money. People will buy your fish. As long as it's well harvested and well washed and well dried, neighbors will buy your fish. Fish is a staple for every Nigerian.
Absolutely.
And so I cannot thank my young guests enough. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your expertise, your knowledge with our viewers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you so much. To our viewers, I say, let as many families as possible begin to fish farm. There's no rocket science to it.
Absolutely.
Learn from those who are doing, but even, they tell me with confidence that, like Mary, who said when she started, it was for her family's consumption, and she succeeded. So let us begin to do that. Even as we call on government, like Eric had said, to do things that can be done on scale. But let every family, let's not fold our hands and die. Nigerians, we are resilient people. Let us each begin inward, starting today with our own families, to grow and farm things that are for family consumption. Let us take charge of our future and our destiny. Let us grow our food as much as we can. Fish farming is very doable. Fish farming will help our situation very much. Thank you once again. See you all.
Thank you.
And do write us and tell us how you are doing with your fish farming. And if when you get too much fish, send some to the Sage. We'll be happy to share.
All right.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Thank you, Mom.